It's Captain Trucker here. I'm here in Mankota, Minnesota, and I'm driving to Northern California today. Well, it's going to take me like 3 or 4 days, but anyway, I wanted to talk about my experiences here from Typhoon Kalmaegi. I guess they're calling it Tino. It's like wreaked havoc through Negros Occidental, man. I gotta make a video about it because I got an update, you know, from my office down there in the jungle, from where I usually do live streams down there, looking outside of the window where I conduct, you know, that's my view when I'm conducting my various international operations and public relations and, you know, doing what I do. And I got a video from that perspective that was sent to me from my people, and it looked like absolute chaos, man. Like, it looked like the storm was just like taking out the whole neighborhood. It was crazy. Yeah. Fortunately, we're not in a flood zone there, so I wasn't so worried about, like, you know, the flooding that you see when it goes up to the houses and stuff. But and then I heard my son in the background, and that was the last communication I had for 2 or 3 days. Yeah. It's kind of, disturbing. But I was, like, working. And I think, you know, part of me has to live in, like, I don't want to call it denial, but you sort of have to bury things temporarily to, like, get the job done. And I knew that it wasn't in a flood zone. I knew they must have lost connectivity and all that. So I was like, all right, you know, worst case scenario, trees are going to fall on the house. Maybe. Well, no, there's no more trees over there, but, well, yeah, there is, but not near that house. Anyway, but I got a message. Everybody's okay. Everybody's all right. But yeah, so it's already killed, I guess, 188 people. They're saying there's 135 people missing. Government declared a national state of calamity to speed up relief efforts. And a lot of regions are still dealing with, like, flood waters, debris, damaged infrastructure. Oh, good. I guess is there another storm coming? Oh my God. Really? I'm just reading right now, there's another storm coming over the Philippine Sea, and it's expected to enter the Philippine area of responsibility by late Friday night or early Saturday morning. Forecasts show it could intensify into a typhoon and potentially reach super typhoon strength before landfall. Oh my God. Another storm. Is this true? Some are saying the devastation from the storm Tino is being linked to intensifying storms due to climate change. Warmer seasons and more moisture are making the tropical cyclones stronger. Authorities are now juggling relief for Kalmaegi victims and preparing for Yuan, which increased risk considerably. I can't believe it, man. There's another storm going there. Is that true? So if you know someone in northern Luzon, Isabela, Aurora, or the east coast of Luzon, this upcoming storm is a serious threat. Keep updated via local weather agency. Be prepared for evacuations, heavy rainfall and flood and storm surge, especially in the coastal areas, power outages, transport disruptions. Man, those flooding areas are crazy, dude. I can't believe how crazy the flooding gets there, man. It's unbelievable. It's not good. Oh, God. Yeah, I guess this is like the risk of living in the Pacific Ring of Fire, man, is like... Typhoons are like no joke, man. Yeah, I think part of my house has been damaged. The one I built where I do all my live streams out of on the channel, I think, or the connecting house, but I'm waiting for a status update on the house I'm building because, you know, we live in the Bacolod area, and like I said, I got a video from the seat of my office to the outside window, and it was just, you know, the trees, these like huge trees were like bent been like 45-degree angles, man. I'm gonna make a video tonight and show the video, but yeah, it was crazy. I was worried about flooding, man. That was my biggest concern, was flooding, but I had to look it up, like I said, because I had no contact from my people for like 2 or 3 days as I'm over here on the road. And you know, fortunately that area is not in a major flood zone, but other people are, man, and other people are still missing apparently. So it's kind of scary, you know. I mean, storms are legitimately dangerous down there. These typhoons. Imagine like being on the coast, like with a tsunami comes or something. Those images, man, of the flood is like crazy, dude. I mean, the water is going up to like people's houses, man, like the roofs and cars being. I mean, what do people do in those situations? Like, are they able to evacuate? Can they hide on their roof? I mean, I'm trying to figure that out. Like, what the hell do they do? I gotta look that up. It's unbelievable. Yeah, are people able to evacuate before the floods take out the whole neighborhood? Oh, God. Anyway, welcome to the live stream. Hit the like button, share your comments and your thoughts on this. I hope you're all doing good out there and you're safe. That's the important thing. It's Captain Trucker here, reporting from Mankota, Minnesota, and I am driving to Modesto, California today. And yeah, I'm dealing with this typhoon in the Philippines, man. It was really bothering me. I think the flooding, I gotta figure this out, the most dangerous part, man. So in Philippines, evacuation capacity varies a lot depending on where people live and how early warnings come in. All right. So the situation now with the incoming storm Yuan, I guess, UWAN. So many hard-hit provinces in the eastern and central Visayas, parts of Luzon, roads, bridges, communication lines were destroyed, making evacuation extremely difficult. Some coastal towns were completely cut off for days after the landfall. Helicopters, naval vessels had to deliver supplies to isolated communities. Jeez. Local governments evacuated Local governments did evacuate tens of thousands before landfall, but the storm's intensity and speed caught some areas off guard. So the challenges people face, like poverty and housing insecurity, so many Filipinos live in informal coastal settlements or flood-prone zones. So moving is costly or risky for them. Logistical issues, remote islands, mountain towns often have only 1 or 2 access roads that become impassable during heavy rain. Disaster fatigue. Some people who evacuated lost homes or livelihoods and are hesitant to leave again because their shelters could be crowded or unsafe. Yeah, I mean, like in rural areas, like the cell towers, the radios often go down, they cut off updates. So Philippines has one of the most experienced disaster response systems in Asia, though. Local officials, coast guards, and community volunteers are very active in evacuation drives. That's really... Mike says, I hope you're okay. Yes. Thank you, I appreciate that, Mike. That's very sweet of you. Oh, God. Oh, that's very funny. These guys are hilarious. They're making jokes during national disasters. These are classy individuals, all right? Some trolls. This is what you get in the expat community, folks. We get class of character, class of people. Thank you, Mike. It's very funny. That's funny. He's asking if everybody's bar wives are okay. I don't have a bar wife, by the way, in case anybody was wondering. Vaughn Dromal says, I hope your family is okay. Yeah, they're fine. There was no flooding, but parts of the house may have been damaged. That's what I'm concerned about. Still waiting for a status update on this house that I'm building there. Hope it's not too damaged. Ha ha! Wouldn't that be messed up? But anyway, that's my problem. There's much more serious problems going on. People have lost lives, man. People are still missing. Wanda Romal says my wife is from Bacolod City. Yeah, I mean, there's parts that have been hit, man. Pretty crazy. Oh, Mike C, that's my favorite new troll. He's using two different things. He's been watching me for months, and I don't know what's going on with him. I guess he realized that we weren't going to be lovers, so now he hates me, I guess. I'm just joking, Mike. I love you. We know everybody's welcome here. Trolls, the people, everybody's welcome on the channel. Yeah, people are missing, man. It's terrible. Yeah. Not good. So I'm trying to figure out if people know the storm's coming ahead of time, then therefore they should have time to like evacuate, right? Try to figure out these flood-prone areas, man. Hit that like button for me, guys. So here are the most flood-prone regions in the Philippines, all right? Metro Manila, national capital, that's, high risk. Marikina, Malabon, Navotas, Venezuela, Caloocan, and low-lying parts of Quezon City and Manila. So, the Marikina River basin often overflows. Poor drainage and heavy urbanization worsens and flash floods. The Marikina River rose 18 meters during this storm, forcing thousands to evacuate. Crazy. Central Luzon Region 3, high prone flood area. Oh, man. Region 2, Region 5, Eastern Visayas, Western and Northern Mindanao, Davao, Caraga regions, it's Eastern Mindanao, flood hazard map, yeah. So, there's flood zones. JJ says, hey trucker, I also drive in the UK, but I have a girlfriend in the Philippines. I was hoping to retire soon when I've built shop and house on top for income. Yeah, I mean, look, everybody's gonna do it. It's like I'm kind of sitting here like crunching numbers and stuff, and I'm like, geez, I got bigger things to do in my life than worried about passive income. I mean, it's all gonna work out. You just put in the numbers, put in the time, make the proper investment, stay frugal, you'll be fine, right? I'm like, geez, there's more to life than just retirement, right? Because I've been like making videos on that recently, like, ooh, retirement. And this one guy said to me, I think it's Mike. Mike said, he goes, yeah, you must have failed in life if you don't have a house by the time you're 45. I'm not 45. In the U.S., that means you failed financially. I love all these like weird presumptions and like metrics that like ignorant people have when it comes to finances. I mean, most people, well, statistically, they usually break even on their houses. Some profit, it depends, but people put a lot of money into houses, right? So I mean, unless you're particularly savvy in real estate or you're playing the Monopoly board and all that, I mean, real estate isn't always like the best investment, right? So that's just my opinion. Not a bad idea, but yeah, man, like ETFs that pay high dividends, like JEPI, That's a good one. I think annuities right now. There's an annuity with I forget the name, but they offer like 6.2% interest rates for a 7-year fixed term. That's not a bad one if you're close to retirement age. 6.2% is pretty decent. Savings rates have been going down in the recent couple weeks, man. I mean, I think Robinhood's, it was just at 4.5%. It just dropped to 3.5, or maybe it was 4.25. So what's up with that? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, man. I mean, with the right savings and investing, I mean, a lot of people can get by with just, getting just a 4 to 6% return on their investments. That's, which doesn't sound like a lot because it's not a lot, but numbers wise. But Jeff says, I just saw your message, Jeff. It didn't show up. Sorry. Why isn't Jeff's messages showing up? Jeff says, I'm in Central Negros on the Occidental Oriental line. The most of the flooding, and yeah, they happen there. I believe it, man. Well, I'm just around the Bacalat area, and I saw like a hellstorm. Can you imagine that though? Seeing a video, you get a message from the people you care about, and it's just a video of some crazy storm. And then no communication for like 3 or 4 days, or 2 days, or 3 days. It was 3 days. And I was like, wow, that's fucked up. I mean, what do you do, right? It's like, keep on trucking, hope for the best. I mean, look, this is life, man. I mean, life's dangerous. I'm not trying to rationalize the situation, but well, it's true. Life is dangerous. I mean, there's risk everywhere. There's risk commuting. But I think if you can avoid living in a flood-prone area in the Philippines, if you have options, that's probably a good one, because floods are no effing joke, dude. Can you imagine a flood rising up to the top of the house and seeing cars being, flowing down the streets and all that? It's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. So I think that's a biggie. I think maybe I'm thinking for typhoons, don't live in a flood-prone area if possible, and don't have a lot of big trees next to the house. Because I had a tree once fall on one of my little units there, just randomly, just I was like, damn. Trees falling on the house, not the most fun. God, those are those are scary images, man. Of like the floods, though. That's some freaky shit. Yeah, and the other thing, living on the coast, I mean, can you imagine tsunamis, dude? I mean, what the hell are you gonna do? Manduramal says my wife's family is going to the barangay to charge phones. The power is not yet restored. Yeah, I believe it. Well, like I said, man, I had no contact for like 2 or 3 days from anybody that I know in that area, and it sucked. I was like, shit. But I just took hope in knowing that, like I said, there was no flood. So I was like, okay, worst case scenario, there's some damage on the house, maybe a few trees fell, but it should be okay. I think I was right about that situation, but these other areas, God, not good. Not good, folks. Look, we're dealing with the Pacific Ring of Fire. These are part of the risk. I mean, we can't sit here and... There's risk everywhere you live. But in terms of weather, that part of the world, It's not like your typical lightning storm or, flash flood that you might get in Texas or something. It's a whole different level. Well, I covered the earthquake, when I was there too. We felt that, remember that earthquake in the Cebu region? That just happened. I felt that one. Bondarama says my nephews and nieces enjoy the no gadget family bonding. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man, is this culture, they are, I've said it like a broken record, I'll say it again. I mean, like they are absolutely resilient people that know what matters. They have their priorities straight, and they appreciate their people more, their family, and it's a good thing. Something that we can all admire. Champ says, I think the badly hit part of the province is the northern part, not so much with the central and south. Yeah, I believe it. Oh, God. How about everybody else? Anybody watching? What's your experience with this situation? Who else is out there? Mike, do you have anything to say? Did you get affected by this? Mike is my latest troll. So let's figure out what's worse, like these typhoons, the floods. It's got to be the floods, man. So all these natural disasters can be dangerous, but the level of danger depends on where you are and how prepared people are. So typhoons are, in fact, the most frequent threat. Danger level is very high. Why? Well, the Philippines averages about 20 typhoons a year, about 5 to 8 of which make landfall. Typhoons combine 3 hazards at once: extreme winds that can destroy houses, power lines, and trees. Heavy rainfall causes the floods and landslides. And storm surges, where seawater pushed inland by strong winds can act like a tsunami. Some typhoons are super typhoons with winds over 200 kilometers per hour. God. There was one, Yolanda, in 2013, over 6,300 people died. Mainly due to storm surges to 7 meters high in Tacloban City. In the latest one, there's nearly 200 dead, massive flood across Luzon and Visayas. Well, it says typhoons are the most destructive overall because they affect the largest number of people that can cause floods, surges, and wind damage all at once. God. Tropical storm Thelma in 1991 killed 5,000 people in the city of Leyte. Floods are the most common and cause of the highest cumulative damage every year, though usually fewer deaths than the worst typhoons. Damn. So, tsunamis are rare, but absolutely catastrophic, folks. Caused by underwater earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and landslides that displace massive water volumes. They can strike with almost no warning, especially if the quake's epicenter is near the shore. Waves travel at hundreds of kilometers per hour and can reach 10 meters high. I don't know if you guys have ever tried surfing before or been hit by waves like in the water that are like 6 feet high, 8 feet high. It's, if you don't know how to swim, it's very difficult. Can you imagine 18 meters or 10 meters? God. The Moro Gulf tsunami in 1976, triggered by a 7.9 earthquake, killed over 8,000 people in Mindanao. In Aurora, 1970, the Surigao, 2017, also experienced smaller tsunamis. All right, let's look at the part of the Philippines that has the highest risk from all three: typhoons, floods, and tsunamis. Oh, God. Chemp says, the worst typhoon I experienced, I was in the provinces way back in the mid-80s, and it happened in the Cabancalan in the southern Negros area where numerous casualties were recorded. JJ says, where I stay in the Philippines is bad for floods. I built the ground above level and waterproofing, but to me, my girlfriend and her family just get on with it. I like the simple life. Brandon says, I live in Mindanao too. Champ says, more than a strong winds, the flash floods that trigger more casualties. That's what I was trying to look at. Hold on, let's look at the So what causes the actual casualties? I would assume it's the floods too, right? I think so. Okay, yeah, that's what I suspected too. So yeah, floods are often the most deadliest and most consistent cause of casualties in the Philippines, even more than the wind damage from the typhoons may cause it, right? They say the typhoons are dangerous because they cause floods. But it's actually the floods, all right? So you somehow live in an area that's not flood prone, slightly above elevation, stay away from big trees near your house and power lines. As long as the structure's good, you should be able to make it through, I think, right? Brendan lives in Mindanao too. Floods are so bad over the top of the roofs. Pretty crazy stuff, man. So the eastern coastal provinces of Luzon are threatened by typhoons, heavy rains and floods, storm surges, and tsunami risk. Central and eastern Visayas, Leyte, Samar historically are hit by major typhoons and storm surges with coastal flooding and tsunami vulnerability. Metro Manila and adjacent low-lying provinces have flood hazards plus storm surge risks, especially during typhoons. Coastal northern Mindanao areas where the river valleys and mountain runoff are where the storms meet the sea are at risk. Those are the areas with overlapping hazards. So yeah, most of these casualties in these storms are caused by the floods, man. They happen often all year round. Philippines experiences southwest and northeast monsoons, which can bring days of heavy rain even when there's no storm nearby. Flash floods are extremely fast and deadly. And flash flooding means it's the most frequent natural disaster type in the country. The tropical storm Thelma in '91 in Leyte killed over 5,000 people in a few hours. In 2011, Cagayan del Oro, Washi, 2011 killed over 1,200 people. So millions of people live in low-lying river basins or coastal zones, especially in Metro Manila, central Luzon, and the Visayas. Poor drainage, poor drainage and informal housing near waterways can make the floods far deadlier. In urban areas, trapped residents may drown or get electrocuted, while rural floods destroy crops and homes. And they can trigger secondary disasters. Landslides often follow heavy rains. Floodwaters spread diseases and contaminate drinking water. Even after the water recedes, casualties rise due to infection and lack of sanitation. God. So while typhoons get more media coverage, it's the flooding that follows them that kills the most people. Quietly, repeatedly, across the widest areas. God. Alright, so we gotta look at how do we reduce the probability of dying from a natural disaster if you're an expat or Filipino living in that country. J. Tur says, "Thank God for Donald Trump." What did he do something in this situation? Alright, so here's where we gotta live if you're moving to the Philippines, folks. Elevated areas away from rivers, coastal zones, or steep hillsides. Concrete or reinforced structures. Avoid light materials or wooden houses near water. Check the PAGASA, PhilVolks, and NOHA maps before settling. Hazard Hunter Philippines tells you if the exact spot is prone to floods, landslides, quakes, or tsunamis. Avoid coastal barangays directly facing the Pacific, especially in eastern Samar, Bicol, in northern Luzon. Oh boy. This is the Prepare Emergency Kit. Include 3 liters of water for each person for 3 days, non-perishable food, first aid kit, plus essential meds, flashlight, batteries, power bank, a whistle, ID copies, cash, important documents in waterproof pouch, clothes, blanket, basic hygiene. Ask your barangay where the nearest evacuation center is. During floods or tsunamis, move to higher ground, not just a nearby building. For earthquakes, drop, cover, and hold. Invest in safer housing. Use reinforced concrete or steel framing. Elevate floors above the known flood levels. Install proper drainage around your property. Avoid reclaimed land or unstable slopes. Consider disaster insurance. Mental and practical readiness. Don't panic. Yeah, don't panic if there's an 18-meter tsunami coming for you. Just remain calm. Well, it's true. Panic kills more than events than itself, I guess. That's what it says. Keep a communication plan. Store the emergency numbers. All right. Well, I guess that's that. Well, let's hope for the best, folks. This world is full of hazards and dangers everywhere we go, man. Oh. All right, well, I'm going to start driving. I guess I'll just film the road for you all. I'm going to California, man. I'm excited. Not really. Well, I got a nice long drive, though, so that's nice. Isn't that nice? You guys having a good time today?
Please drive to highlighted route.
Oh, God. Hey, I'm only 1,900 miles from my destination. Isn't that awesome? It's going to be about a 30-hour trip. All right, we're going to jet out of this area. I'm going to keep talking. I'll just film the road for you all because this is the Captain Trucker channel, and that's what we do, folks. We drive across the country, man. This is what we do. This is who we are, and we're just enjoying these final days of trucking. What can I say? The final days of trucking. There's always going to be trucking in some way, shape, or form. God, I'm so tired about reading about autonomous truck news, man. But what are you going to do, right? Von Duramal says, thank you for what you do. Yo, thanks. I'm not sure what you mean. You mean like as a human being, as a truck driver, as an expat, or everything? Well, you're welcome. I mean, I'm just doing what I do, I guess. I hope my life online has some kind of positive effect in some way, shape, or form. I broke down these tiers of, oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you for that. This is kind of a grassroots channel, by the way. I was analyzing it with AI, and you know, I think there's like, well, they don't really know, but it might be like 700,000 foreign vloggers in the Philippines. X amount of those have, I don't know why, I guess we're always like measuring things by subscriber base, but you know, truthfully, it's not really the only metric. It's more about ratios. It's more about, you know, the engagement. I mean, you got to have some scale, some size, obviously, so people know who you are. I mean, when you're, you know, it's hard to do that. Maybe under 10,000 or under 5,000, maybe. But I was trying to analyze it, and I broke it down into this hierarchy of, there's different psychological hierarchies, I guess they were calling it, of different vloggers in the Philippines, expats, right? And I'm going to post this in my community section because I thought it was kind of funny and interesting. And at the bottom of the hierarchy, you have like, oh man, let me get it. Because it shows you like, you know, the real meaning of what you're doing in social media, the impact it's having. And it was kind of fascinating. I'm going to print it out. But anyway, at the bottom, you had like what they call like these, oh man, let me get it. Let me get the picture. It's an awesome photo. Hold on a second. I want to talk about this one. It's a good one. Oh yeah. Yeah, at the bottom they had one called like the narcissistic savior. And they say like, you know, these vloggers that act like they're part of this community support group for like foreign expats and stuff, like the ones that constantly talk about how much they help people, and like those are like some of the telltale signs of like, you know, anyway. But they had like these different tiers of types of vloggers. I just thought it was kind of interesting, kind of fascinating. And then I think the second was like the escape artist. Next tier, people that are appealing to, but it was so cool because they had like the breakdown of the type of audiences that watch these different types of channels as well. And I was very happy and proud to see that our channel was at like the top of the list in terms of, you know, quality message, quality, you know, audience and that kind of thing. It's basically like, you know, thoughtful people that Filipinos that care about their community and yeah, that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. Thoughtful expats. I thought, oh, that's nice. And it made me feel better about not having 100,000 subscribers, I guess. No, but anyway, so yeah, the subscriber metric, it's kind of a trip. And if you notice now on YouTube, when you watch different videos, they no longer list the subscriber count on the video that you're watching. And I'm wondering why they're doing that. I think it might be psychological because you can, you know, legitimately see a good video, and then if right away you see the amount of subscribers they have, if it's not a lot, you might just assume it's a bad video, so you might not watch it. So I've noticed YouTube stopped doing that, which is kind of interesting. But I think they should consider having other metrics on public display, right? Because people don't realize that, you know, there's so many more metrics in your analytics that the public doesn't see, right? So you have watch time, you have retention, you have, you know, returning viewers, people that watch X amount of videos the last 6 months, people who watch consistently, and new viewers and stuff like that. And so a lot of like massive channels, sometimes, not a lot, some massive channels get just a lot of like legacy subscribers, right? That's why you'll see channels that have dozens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of subs, and you know, time goes by and then suddenly their videos might have like, you know, a couple thousand views or something. That's because they're called legacy subscribers, meaning they had a couple of viral hits and, you know, people clicked once and basically disappeared. Channels like this, I believe, hopefully at least up until now, they tend to have a longer lasting retention and audience, because people actually care. I actually care because it's a real channel. Like we're making it for the right reasons and all that. But this channel doesn't make a lot of money. I knew it wouldn't going into it, and that's okay. But yeah, I think a lot of people do use YouTube probably to try to make money. Monetization can pay fractions of a penny type of thing, but you can find a creative way to sell your product or to promote your business, that kind of stuff. I think that's kind of where the money is at. And you can use it indirectly to use the platform to leverage other things in business indirectly, right? And you can also meet people and stuff like that. So there's always benefits for sure. But in terms of like monetization, you really need to be. Well, it also depends on the audience, right? So you gotta be appealing to certain audiences and really cranking out massive amounts of views. Well, it depends. Champ says, I guess some channels get massive because they employ a team to promote their channel. I mean, that's possible. Yeah, I mean, that's possible. I don't know. I think a lot of the ones, or maybe the ones I've seen at least in the expat Philippines vlogging sphere, I think they grow naturally. I think. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but they appear to at least. I know YouTube has a specific method to promote videos on their platform with AdSense, but that's very costly when you're doing it in massive amounts, and also the retention generally on those types of promotions is not good. But you can certainly bump up your sub count for sure, but they're not necessarily going to be the highest quality subscribers in terms of that. So yeah, I guess it's funny because when I started this, I was thinking like I'd be happy with like I'm serious, because I didn't know anything about the community, because I'd never seen any channels except like one. And I thought, if I get like 5,000 subs, that would be amazing. That'd be like, I never even thought I'd reach 1,000. But then I realized, I was like, oh wow, there's like huge potential here. And then, I think then my goal was like 10, and then I think after 15, I started relaxing more, because I didn't really want to just chase growth in a sense, because I plan on having this channel for a long time, and I wanted to not mellow out, but just. Well, it takes a lot of energy. Like when you're sort of selling your channel to new people, so to speak. I mean, selling it in a psychological sense of the way your urgency and the topics and all this and that, and it's like it can be exhausting. But I kind of wanted to just talk more about things that I want to talk about, which I pretty much always have anyway. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I guess I'd be happy with like 20,000 subscribers. But anyway, that's what I'm saying, man. It's just one metric though, and I don't know why YouTube again doesn't publicly list these other metrics on people's channels, because I think people would be surprised, and they would stop gauging the perception of how valuable channels are simply on their subscriber count. I'm just saying, because it's not the only factor. It's one factor in terms of scale, right? In terms of certain types of scale would be like subs and views. But it for sure does not tell the full story. Because there's a lot of channels, one such as this one, that they punch way above their weight for their scale. Meaning, they're kind of like a very strong small fish in a big pond, so to speak. And yeah, but you only understand that when you actually see all the metrics. So anyway, that's just, nobody asked. I don't know why we brought that up. I forgot why I even said that, but yeah. Anyway, nobody's asking. We're talking about natural disasters. All right, let's film the road. You guys having a good time out there? Who's having fun? Raise their hand. Guys, I gotta check something really quick. It might pause. I'll be right back. Okay. All right, I'm back, folks. We are going to continue this. Why can't I flip this? Hold on. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I was checking something else, actually. JJ asked if I was checking the Reaper trailer. No, I was checking. I had to switch my ELD to something. But anyway, I'm going to hit the road. I'm going to film the road so I can use the phone while I'm driving, but you know, you guys can talk among yourselves. And then when I pull over, I'll read any questions or comments or whatnot. So here we go, folks. We're in Mankota. But yeah, on that subject of metrics, you know, it's interesting, the Philippines expat vlogging community. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole variety of like channels, man. There's a lot of different types of channels out there. It's kind of, you know, the Filipinos have a huge presence on social media, just like Americans, you know, like a lot of countries, but US and Philippines in particular, they watch a lot of these channels, man, a lot of social media. And that the algorithm seems to support the idea of, you know, people moving to the Philippines. And then so you have vloggers, obviously, that promote the Philippines and pander to Western audiences, right? And, you know, it makes sense. But I just kind of question the future a little bit, you know, like if there's ever going to be a tipping point as far as all these promotions and all the foreigners moving to these countries, right? Because I think there could be. And I think that if there's too many foreigners in the Philippines, some of that lovely sentiment of how friendly and wonderful Filipinos are to foreigners, if they start to get annoyed by us, maybe that could change in the future. I don't know. But then again, Filipinos are quite resilient in their character and so forth, but, you know, I also know how us Westerners can be. We overstep and overpopulate. Maybe they won't be so happy with us, who knows. And I also kind of find it like amusing and interesting that a lot of vloggers, they feel like it's their duty or their mission to be like inviting foreigners to a foreign land that they're not residents of, right? Like there is certain ethical considerations in vlogging itself, you know, and it's something like that I always used to talk about. I still do sometimes, but it's just kind of odd to me. Because I know for sure there's some Filipinos that they're not pleased with all these vloggers, you know, depending on which ones. These gonna do a little search, get a little update on the Vitali guy, man. I haven't heard anything about him recently. I wonder what he's doing, what his story is now.
In 1¼ miles, turn left on 6th Street.
But yeah, I was thinking about going to Alaska, trying out some ice road trucking. But I got to just wait for the opportunity and make sure I'm available to do it. It's just because I'm currently on a job here, so we'll see what happens. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. I hope everybody's okay. Hope they survived the storm. I have the phone mounted for legal reasons. I can't see the screen, but when I pull over safely, I'll be able to see some comments. But for now, you guys can all talk among each other, of course.
In 1/4 mile, turn left on 6th Street. Turn left at the stop sign. Continue on 6th Street.
Right. I'm in Minnesota today. I was around Mankato, Minnesota, driving to Modesto, California. And we were talking about the latest typhoon in the Philippines. Might be some minor damage on my house. I'm not sure yet. I'm waiting for an update on that. Fortunately, we're not in a flood zone. I think the biggest key is the floods, man. The floods is what kills the most people. I was saying is that from what I've gathered is basically, the algorithm and the audience at this time in history does favor, obviously, the idea of promoting the Philippines as a place to live for foreigners, right? For expats, tourists, all that. And a lot of Filipinos obviously support that sentiment. However, I'm wondering if there's going to be a tipping point, as I said, and if it will start to change at some point in the future. Maybe not the near future, but I think tourism represents about like 9 or 10% of their GDP. So I'm about 1,900 miles from my destination in Modesto, California. About a 30-hour drive. Nice long haul. Should be fun. Yeah, the jake brakes reduce the wear on the brakes, especially if you're going. I guess this is your like typical small Minnesota town, whatever that looks like. I guess this is what it looks like. Soon it will be freezing cold here with snow everywhere. School off to our right.
Turn left on Minnesota 15. Continue on 551st Avenue.
Anyway, if you're out there, welcome to the channel. Smash that like button. Still think TA doesn't have the best coffee. thought Trump was going to release those JFK files. Did that ever happen? I mean, we all know there was like very probably multiple shooters in that deal, so yeah. That's funny, like your old legacy media guys like Bill O'Reilly, who are supposedly now independent, are still trying to push the narrative that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, of course. That he was just some failure in life nut job. I believe he was the patsy in that situation. Well, it's also interesting how the algorithm, as I was saying earlier, sorry, I'm just having random thoughts. Yes, it promotes the idea of people moving to the Philippines, of course. It promotes some family vlogs, but it also does promote, the trash vlogs as well. So I just wonder if some of that's going to pull back in the future. Once the Filipinos decided they have too many foreigners. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm thinking back to what I was thinking about JFK is like, people forget that when he was alive, he was hated by a lot of people, Oftentimes, after people are dead, artists, even presidents, they tend to be loved, and that's sort of when they appreciate it. But when Kennedy was alive, a lot of people hated him. They had the whole Bay of Pigs thing, and I think even parts of the military were mad at him. There was stuff with, organized crime. There was something there with regards to his presidency and these unions. So there was a lot going on, and, Kennedy was pissing off a lot of people for both good and bad reasons, I would guess. I think people like Bill O'Reilly, he sees himself as an American patriot down the line. But the problem is like, guys like O'Reilly is that they think that they're being a patriot, but what they're really doing is just basically promoted more propaganda because they don't want to, quote, make America look bad. But the problem with that is that you're promoting ignorance. You're basically saying that, the U.S. government's like Big Daddy looking over the people, and that, the people can't handle the truth, and that the government needs to basically keep people in the dark because the public isn't ready for reality in a sense. And there's people that think they're doing that with the aliens too. I mean, for decades and decades, if you believed in, UFOs, you were some kind of, nut job that dropped a bit too much of what in San Francisco or New York, and you were just some nut, you were some crazy person. But even now, they're finally saying that UAPs, for instance, are a thing. Like, even the actual U.S. government is saying there is unidentified objects that they cannot explain. All right? So there's, obviously there's stuff out there. We don't know what it is. But I forget the name of the study, but there was, at one point, maybe it was during the Bush administration, I heard a podcaster talking about this, that they basically did a study on what the effects would be on the population if the U.S. government revealed certain truths or certain facts and knowledge about maybe UAPs and some other things, UAEs, I said that wrong. And they basically concluded that, if society knew too much about the truth, that they felt or thought that society would also destabilize. And so therefore they concluded it would be in the public's best interest not to tell them the truth about everything. So I found that kind of funny. Yeah. But, I'll say this, like the party system in the U.S. is just it's just a joke. I mean, there's corruption in both parties, all right? Both the Democrats and the Republicans in the U.S., but over the recent years, in my opinion, like the Democratic Party and other people's opinions, has become way more corrupt than the Republicans, man. And they turned this whole immigration thing and Trump and a lot of Republicans into this, they try to spin this racist bullshit. But the problem is that the Democrats are essentially trying to bring people in, to bring illegal immigrants into the swing states to basically buy votes, to basically vote in more Democrats. And then the issue is that you would essentially have a one-party country. It would be a one-party state. It would no longer be a democracy. So, like, the Democrats have completely just gone over the edge in terms of this type of corruption, man. And also that, but also free speech. They became like the party of censorship. So, yeah, the Democratic Party in the U.S. is not at all what it used to be, man. It's a far cry from it. And they have absolutely no leadership, and they're screwed. I don't know how they're going to need like another Obama to come back or something, or have another great leader represent them, because they're fucked. They've lost a lot of credibility, man. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, even a lot of the tech industry people that went over to the Republican side, Elon Musk and all these other guys, because it's just the corruption became too blatant. Like, we cannot be using like immigrants, legal immigrants, to buy votes in U.S. elections. It's crazy. Like in California, you don't even need proper voter ID apparently. But my point is that this whole party system thing is just such a scam, because obviously there's corruption in both parties, and people just, they join these tribes. And it continues to divide the country, and that's kind of the way it's set up. And that's why, I think with expat life is you have a better advantage, because you don't have to get sucked into all this bullshit and basically just be a pawn in these systems that aren't really designed. Like, you're doing nothing, number one, by being some extremist or some hardcore Democrat or Republican or whatever. Like, you're not really contributing much to society by being a virtue signal. There's not much you're actually contributing. It's basically these corporations, like big businessmen and other things like that, is like they're the ones running this country now. So there's no point in like fighting or hating half the country or whatever, because it's stupid. We're supposed to be united as Americans, not letting these big businessmen and politicians split us apart. And that's kind of what's happening. So it's been happening for a long time. It's just getting worse. That's kind of how I see it. So count out and leave it there and go home. Don't let this stuff rule your life. Do your part, but leave it there. Because when you get too obsessed with this stuff, it's not good for anybody. I think the legacy media is going to eventually be taken over by independents more, which is probably a good thing. There's a lot of crap that comes with social media, but there's also good in the sense that we still have information that you can get out there that's true, right? So we don't have to depend anymore on the corporate legacy media, the CNN, the Fox News, and all the propaganda networks. Because, first of all, you can't really get legit news in these, quick headlines and these sound bites and all the bullshit. Because there's no depth. There's little truth, right? You get fragments of truth. And I think like these networks are going to eventually go down. And I think they say it's just the boomers now watching these major news outlets, right? Like people over, 50 or 60? So there's good that's come with the internet, there's good that's come with social media. It's more going to be a matter of sorting through a lot of the noise. Because with more information, we're going to have more bullshit too. But there's also going to be truth in there somewhere, so it's a matter of finding it. And I think it's the same with, channels, foreign vloggers in the Philippines too. I'd like to think that channels like this will have more of a meaningful impact in history versus other types of channels that mostly pander to like lower level, lower functioning, low agency type of expats that have traditionally settled in these countries like the Philippines and other places. I'm hoping that will change. I think some of it will. And I'm hoping that some of those channels
In 1 mile, take the exit on the right
that have
to
sort of,
US 14 East,
pandered
then take the
and
second
try to
left.
monopolize the audience in a sense. I think some of them might fade away too a little bit. I think the Filipinos might get tired of some of it too. Some of the vloggers, so to speak, Because some of them are going to be like, well, wait a minute, why is this foreigner, with 50,000, 100,000 subscribers, why is he promoted, all these foreigners to come settle in our
Take
land?
the exit on the right
Right,
to
you know what I mean?
US 14 East, then take the second left.
Because right now, a lot of Filipinos appreciate it. But like I said, it's possible that some of that could change.
Roundabout, take the second exit.
Yeah, a lot could change. I'm actually trying to hit up a truck stop around here, so
At the roundabout, take the second exit to 7th Street North.
taking a slightly different route. That's why it's good to have a couple GPS systems.
In 1/2 mile, turn left on North Broadway Street.
least I thought there was a truck stop around here that I was I'm trying to get more coffee, better coffee. I got this garbage coffee at TA. What's up with TAs having this crappy coffee, man? It's like, I don't know what that's about. Like, it tastes sour. Maybe I missed it, I don't know.
Turn left at the traffic light.
Welcome to the live stream, whoever's out there, ladies and gentlemen. We're driving to Modesto, California today. This part of Minnesota has these like kind of these side highways till I get to a major highway. There's gonna be the 90, I think. Look at this truck. This thing's massive, dude. Look how big that cab is. My goodness. See how big that cab was on that truck?
Continue on North Broadway Street.
My other GPS was showing that there was a stop, but I think it was just it wasn't like a truck stop. I was gonna try to stop there to get coffee, but I guess that's not gonna happen. So anyway, we're getting back on the 15 or whatever it is. That's why I think, you know, there's certain bloggers that are part of like they don't realize it, but they're part of an algorithmic psyops, in my opinion. And it's why, you know, the internet's fascinating, like social media, because you ever watch channels or videos and you'll say to yourself, my God, how does this video have, you know, 2 million views, right? Or like these dogs barking, or just something arbitrary or something ridiculous or something silly. Yeah, it's because people watch a lot of mindless stuff or propaganda or bad stuff, but I think it's also an effort. I mean, I can't prove this, but I think there's also well, I don't want to say that, but I think that there's certain things that get pushed for certain reasons. You know what I mean? That in the broader scale are being controlled by, well, people with a lot of money and people that are trying to influence things. So, in other words, the quote-unquote major influencers, or even mid-tier influencers, like even in this genre, they're being, unbeknownst to them, controlled by possibly some of the psyops in a way. And I think they get sucked into that vortex on social media without realizing it. And I think some of that happened, like maybe even guys like, I don't know if Vitaly is a good example, but I'm not sure how he started off. I don't know his full story, but it's like the perfect example of someone who becomes mentally ill and crazy from social media, or maybe already was and it just exasperated it or whatever. But I mean, that guy essentially destroyed his life for views, or for what he thought would get a lot of views or whatever. But, and it's very common that, in the vlogging community, they were like, everybody was pointing the finger at him because he was the bad guy. And, obviously he did the worst stuff in terms of being disrespectful to Filipinos. And, they even said committed crimes, and all that kind of stuff. But my point is that there's other vloggers too that are doing stuff that's, pretty bad, in my opinion, that's also being supported and promoted by the algorithm and the audience. But they tend to get a free pass. But yeah, everybody, obviously Vitaly was bad, but they all pointed the finger at him as like, enemy number one, so to speak. But my point in all that is that there's still plenty of other bad players on the scene. I think, for that kind of stuff, ultimately, because there's been, those genres of channels in the past that sort of, I don't know, maybe criticize other channels and all that kind of stuff. I kind of stay away from that because I don't find it that interesting. It's not really my lane or spot or interest. I talk more in terms of theory and behavior in general, but I forget why I just said that, actually. Why did I say that? I forgot the point I was making, sorry. It's just not my style. It doesn't, it's just not for me. But, I forgot the point I was making. I'm just like free speaking. Oh yeah, my point is that it's not for those channels to like criticize and dictate. It's more, this is going to be an issue for the Filipinos to deal with, right? So if the Filipinos get tired of this stuff, I guess ultimately they would be the ones that make that call, right? But it is amusing, like, to watch some of these vloggers who are clearly have overvalued their purpose as a vlogger in the Philippines because they're being pushed by the psyops and the algorithm to basically draw in more foreigners, which is fine. It is what it is, but that's why you see like the lack of nuance and lack of well, I mean, some of them have nuance. I mean, some of them do. It just depends, you know. There's a lot of good channels out there. It's interesting to really live it. Because my point, I guess, is that sometimes we get pulled into things, even unintentionally, or, you know, that's our goal or whatever. Because some people don't care as long as they get traction, they get attention, they get their message out. They don't care what their message is, who it affects, what it even means, right? But I think a lot of people do use YouTube to make money and all that, which is probably why. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. But yeah, if you like the channel, subscribe, and I hope everybody's safe from the latest typhoon. And hold your higher ground, try to live in elevated spots, man. It's the floods that are getting people. The floods are the most dangerous part of these storms, man. I guess I'm hoping with like the legacy of this channel is that we're going to have more of a positive impact on the future in terms of the types of expats that go to these countries. That's one of my goals, I guess. Because I think with more people flooding over there, they're going to want more high agency type of people. People moving for the right reasons and so forth. Whatever those reasons are. Whatever those right reasons are, I guess. So welcome to the live stream. I got the phone mounted while I'm driving, so I can't see the comments. Because I'm legally compliant, but later when I pull over, I'm going to read them. So I appreciate anybody's watching, and if anybody's watching, thank you.
3/4 of a mile, turn right on Minnesota 60 West.
60 West. You guys enjoying this ride through Minnesota?
Turn right on Minnesota 60 West.
Graduated to a larger freeway, folks. Highway, I should say. Buckle your seatbelts.
Continue on Minnesota 15.
Hope you're all having a good day today.